Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about miscellaneous punctuation. That means that basically I'm going to talk to you about various types of punctuation. I'm going to talk about hyphens, dashes, colons, semicolons, ellipses, parentheses, brackets, quotation marks, italics, and underlining. Italics and underlining aren't technically punctuation, but anyway, they can be included in this group. So, first of all, hyphens and dashes look very similar, but hyphens are shorter, 2 or 3 times shorter than dashes. Dashes are longer. Hyphens are sometimes used to form words. Generally, that's what we use them for. Sister-in-law is a compound word that's formed with hyphens. Germ-free is a compound adjective that's formed with hyphens. Most of the time, words that are made with hyphens are adjectives. Obviously, sister-in-law is not, but most of the time they are. And you can put various words together sometimes just to make your own adjective up. 35 is a number that's sort of a compound number, and we use a hyphen for that. And x-axis, when you're in geometry, x-axis is the horizontal axis. And to make it very clear that we're talking about that, we put a capital X hyphen and then axis. So when you join a single letter with a word to form a word, x-axis, U-turn, t-shirt, A-list, those are some other ones. One way, now we can say one way and it not be a compound word and not need hyphens. One way with a hyphen is an adjective that's used to describe something. So a one-way street, a one-way conversation. But if you say you can only go one way down this sidewalk, then that is not an adjective. That is something else. So only when you're using it as an adjective. Another example of something like that is hot water. Okay, we put rice, cook rice in hot water. That's not a compound adjective, but hot water bottle, yes, hot water is a compound adjective describing the bottle. So that's the difference there. Recollect is another one where sometimes you might use a hyphen, but if you don't use a hyphen, it forms a completely different word. Recollect means to collect again. For example, I was collecting shells on the beach and accidentally dropped them, so I had to recollect them. But if you write that word without the hyphen and put it all together, it forms the word recollect, and that means basically the same thing as remember. So I can't recollect what I did with those shells. I can't remember. All in one is another example of something that you can use as not a compound word. Like we put the records all in one file. That's fine. But if you're going to use the phrase all in one to describe something like the Swiss Army knife is an all-in-one tool, then the phrase all in one describes the tool, and we use hyphens for that. Hopefully that helps you understand that. Dashes are used to make a more dramatic point than a comma. For example, he stole my phone, the only phone I've ever had. Okay, so you could put a comma there, but if you're trying to be dramatic, then a dash would be what you might use. Dashes may also be used to show interrupted speech, say in dialogue. I was just, never mind, wait. So if a person is sort of verbally processing, then that person might use that kind of expression, and to indicate that in your story, then you would use dashes. Or maybe if you're talking about a one-sided telephone conversation, meaning you can't hear the other person talk. Hi, my name is Yes. Yes, I'll hold. Okay, so then we need to put dashes there to indicate where the other person is talking and the narrator can't hear. Colons are used to introduce a list or an important word or point. So there are 3 things I need: my phone, my pillow, and a snack. Okay, so maybe I'm going on a trip and I want to list those things. Notice that there is an independent clause before the colon. Colons don't interrupt independent clauses. So if my sentence were like this: I need my phone, my pillow, and a snack, then we wouldn't put a colon there, because my phone, my pillow, and a snack is not something added on. It's the direct object of the verb need. So we don't put a colon between an action verb and its object, and we don't put a colon between a linking verb and its predicate, noun, or adjective. So for example, my favorite colors are red, turquoise, and green. So in that case, I don't need a colon, because red, turquoise, and green, that's the compound predicate nominative. But I have that shirt and 3 colors, red, turquoise, and green. In that case, I have a complete independent clause before the list, and we would use a colon. I have that shirt and 3 colors, colon, red, comma, turquoise, comma, and green. This is what she said. It's over. So in this case, when you're using dialogue or quotations, you can use a colon, but only if it has a complete sentence before it. So this is what she said. If I stopped there, that's a complete sentence, okay? But if I say this: she said it's over, and I want to put the quotation marks around it, then what we put between said and the quotation marks is not a colon, but a comma. Colons do not come and interrupt the sentence. She said is not a complete sentence. Okay. Semicolons are used to join closely related independent clauses. So on either side of the semicolon, you will have an independent clause. I have a big math test tomorrow. I can't go out tonight. So with the semicolon there, we're indicating that the second part logically follows the first part. I need to study. In fact, that's all I'm going to be doing tonight, or that's all I'll be doing tonight. In that case, I used a conjunctive adverb, or what you might call a transition phrase, to show what the logical following of the second sentence is to the first one. So here it's self-explanatory. Here I just wanted to explain a little bit more about how the 2 sentences are related. Semicolons are also used to join lists of items that already contain commas. On that trip, I went to Paris, France, Moscow, Russia, and Amsterdam, Holland. So city-country pairs like that have commas between the city and the country. And so if you were to join these 3 places with commas instead of semicolons, it would look like you had been to 6 places, because you would put equal importance on all 6 things. But if you want to make sure that the pairs of things stay together, then you would put semicolons between each pair. Now, ellipses. Ellipses show that a thought, a list, or a quotation continues beyond what you're writing. So here's an example. The words go like this, and I have a colon here because I have an independent clause, and then I'm going to make a point. The words go like this: start spreading the news, I'm leaving today, and then I have ellipse there. And because that's not the end of the words to the song New York. Also, I want to show you that an ellipse has 3 dots. But here I have 4 dots because it's at the end of the sentence. So we have an ellipse and a period. In dialogue, ellipses can show hesitation or incomplete thought. I mean, it's the rain that made it all seem so... Okay? And so in that one, you can see that there's a pause here and a pause here. Here it's hesitation. Here it's like my thoughts are kind of trailing off and I'm not really continuing to express them verbally. So that's what we do in there. Also, if you are quoting something, I said or quotation here, but if you're quoting something and you don't include all of the words, and maybe you skip a phrase because it's not important to the big point that you're making, then you can put an ellipse to show that you skipped a few words. Or if you skip the rest of the sentence, then you would put 4 periods because it's the ellipse plus the period. So here we have 3, that's the ellipse, and 4, that's the ellipse plus a period. Parentheses are for extra information or documentation. Only about 10%, 27,000, of the world's plant species have been studied, Wikipedia. So here we have clarification, more information for clarification. You could also use parentheses for a conversion. So I walked a mile, open parentheses, 5,721, I can't remember exactly, feet, close parentheses, period. You put the period outside the parentheses like I did over here with the documentation. I didn't really get that from Wikipedia, but I just wanted to show you with the documentation where that would go. Brackets are used to indicate that something in the quotation has been changed. So sometimes we use ellipse, like here, to show that I didn't quote the first part of the sentence. And then it says drivers, and originally this said drivers were increasingly engaging, but I want to say it in the present tense, just because that goes with the context of my paragraph that I'm writing perhaps. Drivers are increasingly engaging in secondary tasks while driving. And notice also that with the quotation marks go around the quotation, and then we have the documentation here. These are the authors of the book or book, it looks like, page 68. And then close parentheses, and then the period goes after the parentheses, just like it does down here. So obviously these are quotation marks, and we also use them for speech, dialogue. Be quiet, she said, I'm trying to think. And so it's important to remember where the punctuation goes. If the punctuation is included in the quotation marks, meaning like if that's the end of what she said and it's also the end of the sentence, then you put the quotation marks outside there, or put the period inside the quotation marks. Same thing here for the comma goes inside the quotation marks. If it were just a word or something and it's not a complete sentence, then you might put a period or a comma outside the quotation marks. And we might see an example of that as we look in the book exercises. And then italics or underlining are for non-English words, some titles, and words as words. Non-English words might include scientific terms of something, or if you're writing a story in English and you use a specific Spanish word, like bodega, for instance, then that should be underlined if you're handwriting, italicized if you're typing. Some titles, we already went over this in another year when we're doing this. You've been over italics in this way many times probably, so I don't feel like I need to give you a whole whiteboard and a whole video about that. But some titles, meaning a title of a book should be italicized, a title of a movie, the title of a TV series, a title of a painting, or the name of a ship or spaceship. Those things are italicized. Other titles use quotation marks. The title of a song, the title of an episode of a TV show, the title of a chapter of a book, the title of a poem or a speech. Those things would have quotation marks around them instead of being italicized or underlined. And words as words. So if I'm talking about where are we going to use the word and in this sentence, then the word and should be underlined or italicized, because I'm not using and as a conjunction. I'm talking about the word and. Okay, hopefully all of this will help you as we go into the meat and into your written assignment. Happy writing.